James from Mortgage Choice, Miami, Burleigh and Palm Beach. And on the couch today we have Tony West from Lacey West Real Estate.
Thanks for the invite.
No, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. So we'll start off with these questions that I told you about.
Right.
That are a little bit, they're a little bit relaxed before we start with the big tips and things for buyers and sellers and stuff like that. But so what was your first car?
First car was a Datsun 180B. Prior to that, I did have a sort of a half share with my brother in a panel van.
So you had a panel
panel van, yeah, which were pretty popular in the 70s.
A lot of people I've spoken to from the same era all had panel vans.
Yeah.
And even some younger guys as well, so it's funny. What was or what is your favourite sports team?
Brisbane Broncos. I'm a rugby league fan.
So you're a rugby league fan.
Yeah.
Do you get up there much? Or?
Not a lot to the games. We usually go up for Origin, so we're trying to organise some tickets for next Wednesday night.
So that's a call out if anybody has tickets for the Origin. Tony West from Lacey West Real Estate would like some tickets.
That's if they're free.
That's if they're free, especially if they're free. Obviously go on holiday. Where's your favourite holiday destination?
Australia or overseas?
Both. Either or.
Probably Byron Bay is our favourite spot. I know it's only nearby, but we like going to Byron Bay. I think anywhere overseas is good because you go overseas and you get away from work, don't you?
Different holiday.
Yeah,
Nobody can phone you.
That's right.
I suppose you've been in business for how long? How long have you been a real estate agent?
Since 1980, started here in James Street in 1980. The main business was done through the week. Saturday mornings were busy, but the rest of the weekend was pretty quiet.
And is that different now? Do you find that?
Yeah, it probably changed a bit. Open homes didn't exist when I started. More real estate agencies in the area in 1980 than what they are now.
So I mean, I think in Burleigh, what have we got? 6 or 7 real estate agents?
There would have been 10 or a dozen when I started.
Wow. So that's changed as well. And I suppose in real estate as well, all the technology's changed. Has realestate.com affected or changed things? And online?
Yeah, technology's changed things a lot in the way you operate. It's also changed buyers' habits. Once a buyer would wander into a real estate agency to find out what they had for sale, they would either drive around an area, see a sign, or walk into an office. These days you rarely get buyers walking into your office because they'll normally look on site and then contact the agent or not even contact the agent, just turn up at an open home. It's made it a lot easier for buyers to stay in touch with the market and see what's going on before they actually have to make a decision.
A lot of them are using the apps and checking prices and what they think it's worth.
That's
and
right.
Banks are offering those as well.
Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes you get an average price in an area and it's not always that, doesn't always relate that well to the property that they're going to inspect.
I suppose because it is purely an algorithm and an average. It's not looking at the individual features and things like that.
That's true. And it's not an exact science. So it's a bit hard to...
Valuers often say
it's a bit hard to purple brick the industry, as we know.
And they don't seem to be going as well as they would have hoped, I think, have they?
They're gone.
They're gone. Okay. What's your biggest business achievement? You're most proud of?
Biggest business achievement? I think that's probably survival in the industry I'm in, mate.
Still being here since 1980.
Still being here, yeah. It's a very competitive industry. The Gold Coast is a cyclical economy, so we have a lot of highs, we have a lot of lows. So surviving and keeping that consistency and service up is a survival in itself.
Yeah. Okay. Superb. Where and what was your first house?
First house was in Japonica Drive at Palm Beach.
Okay. Yeah.
We bought that house. Judy and I had been married about 18 months, so we would have bought that house in about 1980.
How much was it?
Paid $41,500 for it.
$41,000.
Brand new spec home. Yeah. 3-bedroom, brick and tile, 2
bathroom.
bathroom.
It was a new home. So it was land.
Brand new.
How much was the land?
In those days, the land would have been about $12,000 or $13,000, I'd imagine. Spec homes were a little bit different then. You got the house and nothing else. No landscaping, no fencing, zero. You got a house on a block of land, and that was it. Dirt, no grass, nothing. Not even turf.
And so you had to do all that. Obviously,
you did all that yourself, yeah.
So your family, or you have a farming background as well, don't you?
That's right. Yeah.
So you're a country boy, really? Was that
Country boy, yeah.
So where was that from?
Originally lived in a little town called Yetman out on the New South Wales side of the border. I was born in Texas. Yetman didn't even have a doctor, so when your mother gave birth, she either had to go to Gundawindi or Texas. They were both about half an hour away. Fortunately, they were both on the Queensland side of the border, so I can say I'm a Queenslander.
So you can say you're a Queenslander, so you're not a Blues.
Especially with Origin coming up.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
If you look, you've got buyers, you've got sellers, you're dealing with both. What is going to be your biggest tip or tips for buyers?
Well, there's probably two types of buyers. There's a buyer looking to buy their own home, and then you've got a buyer who's an investor. With the buyers looking for their own home, they can sometimes fall in the trap of buying the house or the property they think is the best value or the cheapest. Sometimes they're better off buying the house or the home they really like. Maybe it's not the cheapest out there, but you're better off buying something that you like to live in than buying something just because it's the cheapest in the market. With the investor, it's slightly different. They're obviously looking at it on a return basis.
Yep.
But again, my recommendation would be you're better off buying position, because even though you might not be getting the same return because you're buying position always wins out in the long run.
And long-term growth is always
Long-term growth is better, and if you ever want to sell it with the position, you'll always, even in a downturn, you'll always find that easier to sell than a property in not quite as good a position.
And it's like, even with units, they always say, my understanding is like a one-bedroom unit is always going to not sell as well as a two-bedroom unit or a three-bedroom unit.
That's true. One bedrooms, even though there's been a lot of articles about us as a population shifting into smaller style properties, the one-bedroom unit still is tough in the marketplace, and it's usually only going to sell on a price point. So therefore, it doesn't usually have a great capital growth.
Okay. So if you're a seller, and we'll talk a little bit about commercial stuff, because that's something you guys specialise in, and you're on your own in that way in comparison to a lot. So if you're a seller of a residential house, what's your biggest tip?
Probably if you're going to sell your own home, there's probably a few things you have to consider. One thing you need to ensure is that the agent you choose is someone you get on with and you connect with, because it is a partnership. You and the agent are going into a partnership and to sell the property. So you need to get on with them. You also need to make sure that they're giving you the facts and not fiction. Because unfortunately in our industry, it does attract people that don't always give the facts. They're always selling the smoke and mirrors.
So you've got to trust your agent. You've got to get on with your agent.
Exactly right.
And anything on the properties themselves, anything in the presentation that is winner or not winner, or
well, if you're picking an agent you trust and get on with, you should be taking their advice on how to present the property to get the best out of the market.
Okay. So do some people, I certainly have seen, some people will go and spend too much money renovating a property to sell it, and then the new buyers will come in and rip up this new carpet that's gone down. They'll pull out this kitchen that they put in, and is that something that is a truth, or?
Yeah, it is true, but that will usually reflect on the type of renovation they've done. They may have not done a renovation that's going to appeal to the majority of the marketplace. So when you're doing a renovation, and sometimes people cut corners and do take a cheap option where it doesn't really pay in the long run.
What with commercial at the moment, where are we sitting in the marketplace on commercial properties?
The commercial market, well, there are varying parts of the commercial market. There's the industrial warehousing, there's office space, and there's retail. So all those markets are slightly different. The office market leasing and sales is still a little bit soft. The industrial market is fairly strong, especially in the sales side of it. The retail side of it, the majority of the commercial or retail areas are fairly full. The majority of them are, it's not like 7 or 8 years ago when we had 20 or 30% vacancy rates.
Well, even in James Street here, there would have been, when we took this shop over in 2013, there would have been 7 or 8 shops in the street, all for lease.
That's right, you had plenty of options, whereas now that's all changed. And not just James Street, but even the Gold Coast Highway around here at Burleigh and the Gold Coast Highway, there were, stacks of space available for lease, and now it's pretty well full. So the Gold Coast economy is attached to the construction industry. The construction industry has been strong for the last 3 or 4 years, and that keeps money flowing in the economy.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen as many cranes on the Gold Coast as I have at the moment. I haven't. Have you? You've seen as many as this?
No, it's probably as much as there's ever been. What comes after the cranes come down is the is the telling point. If 3 cranes come down and no more go up, well, it means that obviously that everything's slowing up.
So it kind of leads me into my last question for you. How do you feel about the future?
I think the future of the Gold Coast is strong. I think we've got a softer market than we had, probably, especially residentially, than 12 or 18 months ago. But I think with stock levels are still reasonably low, even in the residential market. People are still moving here. There's talk of another interest rate drop, but I think a seller has to be more realistic now than what they were 18 months ago. They have to consider that the market's not trending upwards, so the market's not going to catch up with an inflated price. Even if it's slightly inflated, the market won't catch up to it. So if you're out of the market, you're out of the market.
And is it taking longer to sell houses?
It is. It is. The time in the market has moved out, but comparatively to some markets we've been in over the last 20 or 30 years on the Gold Coast, it's still good.
Superb. What was the worst market you've ever experienced?
There were some very tough markets in the 80s, but I think the 90s was probably the toughest, because the whole of the 90s, and I'm talking 8 to 10 years, were a tough market, and we had very little capital growth.
Yeah.
You'd sell a house in 1991 for $185,000. You'd go back in 1998 and you'd be lucky to get to 200.
Oh, right, so there was no movement at all.
Yeah, no movement at all. Okay. Yeah.
Superb.
As Paul Keating said, it was the
recession we had to have.
The recession we had.
And I think this one, they talked about, it was the recession that we didn't have to have.
It didn't have to have, yeah. But we didn't want.
We didn't want. But that didn't happen as it comes around. So. No. But thank you so much for spending time with me today. I know you're busy.
It's a pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Yeah. And thanks for all your help with your financing some clients we've sent through to you.
Thank you.
It's been good, and they've been very happy with Mortgage Choice's service.
Thank you, Tony.
Right.
Superb.